Oh, crazy. All right, so I guess I've got two screens, huh? There's George.
You see me?
We see
Hey
you.
there.
Hey, George, how's it going?
Uh-oh. Well, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Just
I am
trying
a
to
little,
clean
I
up this
think
little
I'm having a
blank.
little,
You're having what?
sure.
You're on, George. Don't worry.
Hey,
We hear you.
I'm having an audio issue, but I think I'm okay.
Very cool. Well, this is going to
And
be really fun. We've got a lot of very
yeah,
interesting people on the call today. A lot of interesting people on the call today. George, how do you want to kick this off? You want to go around the bend and introduce everybody really quickly? Everybody knows me, so I'll let you guys start.
yeah. So around here real quickly. Yeah, very quickly. Crouch, this is our crypto corner that we have every Friday. And I'm going to hand it off and Michael, who can go around and we can go around the room and tell everybody what they do or who they are. And John, welcome to South Carolina. Most of us are from South Carolina, most of us are not, and so we take it away.
Well, I think it's more
Guys.
welcome to Texas. We're broadcast. This is broadcast from the Bank Social
Michael,
Studios live in Texas. Welcome to Texas.
Yeah, thanks, George. Thanks, John. Yeah, my name is Michael Allen. I've been I was an early BankSocial team member, and then kind of phased back into the kind of a parallel org that we have, which is the BSL DAO, which is more the community-specific side of the project. And I'm an elected delegate to help facilitate business on behalf of the DAO. I'm a day job as an active duty military officer, and I'm here in South Carolina, and that's how I found SCETA and emerging tech, and then ultimately George and your call. That's kind of my quick background there.
All right. Nice
Greg, do you want to go ahead and go? Greg,
Hey,
next.
yeah, sure. Good morning, everybody. My name is Greg Nielsen. I am a tax attorney by education. I run my own accounting firm. I've known George, Patty, and some people of the group here for a couple years now. Very interested in the space and excited to learn more about BankSocial.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Good morning. My name is Jordan
there you
Hensel,
go.
big educator and blockchain advocate here in
Jordan.
North Carolina. You hear me, George? You're good, George. Excited to hear about what BankSocial is doing. I've been reading into it and got a lot of friends in different industries, and how we can help get their business using these platforms.
Great. How about you, Patricia?
Hi. Good morning. I'm Patty Pierce, or Patricia Pierce, go by Patty usually. I'm from Columbia, South Carolina, and I lobby at the South Carolina State House. I think I've been participating on George's call a little more than 3 years, and enjoy learning about all sorts of crypto news each week.
Cool. Dennis. I know we have a history, Dennis, and you may be frozen. I think either you're really
I
good
think
at
Dennis is frozen.
either he's really good at staying still or he's frozen. Let's move on
I
to
think
you,
he's
Tim,
frozen.
for a second.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tim Niemeyer. I'm an educator, author, and writer in the Bitcoin space. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, there's a lot to talk about. I'll introduce myself for those who don't know, because I think you've got some maybe community members who are going to be joining this. So I'm John. I'm the founder and CEO of BankSocial, and we've been at this for I've been at crypto since one of a developer friend of mine in 2010, in March of 2010, got me hooked on Bitcoin. Maybe didn't get me hooked on Bitcoin, got me hooked on DLT and these new systems. And so, just played around with it. We've been very successfully building, banking software that mixes DeFi with TradFi. We work with a lot of the regulators. I frequently go up to DC and I work with a lot of different regulators, the chairman of these institutions, as well as Congress people, congressmen and women from around the country on, what is really changing here and abroad. I was at WEF a few weeks ago, or a few months ago now. The sentiment is changing. We've signed financial institutions all over the world, including Africa, now Latin America, several countries down there, Eastern Europe. We're seeing APAC starting to come online heavily, India starting to come online heavily. And so these systems and really the regulators there's a sweeping kind of change in sentiment over the last really few months. It's been incredible how fast the sentiment has changed, and we see everybody from the SEC to the NCUA, which is one of the initial regulators we engaged with. They were very much open to the option. We worked with them to get the first piece of guidance ever written by a United States federal regulator to say DLT could be used responsibly, and specifically we use the words blockchains and distributed ledgers or things like them to not be exclusive of any technology, and include Bitcoin as well, and all the other manifestations that could come. And so off the heels of that, it's just been growing rapidly. So happy to discuss all this with you all today, because I think this is the right group of people, right? And you guys are focused on this both at the local level and federally as well, I'm sure.
Yes.
Very cool. Thank you, John.
Yeah. So what do you guys typically talk about on these things?
And so
Typically,
well,
George,
a number of things. We go from BRICS to hating Gary Gensler to a number.
Well, I think why didn't we start with
subjects, but focus on you today, John. And so I guess,
John, if you wanted to talk to vision,
you sort of give us an idea of your business is about, what your
so let's talk about how we started.
And
yeah, sorry, you're breaking up a lot.
George is frozen.
Sorry, George is breaking up a lot. So
if you could tell us about BankSocial, what your project's about, the BSO token, the RUSD.
Yeah. So let me just give you kind of a history of where we came and where we started and how we got here. So, back in 2021, really, and this started many, many years ago, but back in 2021, I was in building and construction, had, broker's license, but I was always a technologist. I worked at a company that, we built software, and we got acquired by Cart.com eventually. We actually got acquired twice, and second time by Cart.com. But, I was looking at kind of DeFi in late kind of mid 2020, early 2021, and saw an opportunity to create a mechanism with a DAO that, would allow for, people to come together and invest in business loans. And so we put the theory out there, we put the test out there. It ended up being quite successful. The BSL DAO was formed shortly after that. That's a Wyoming entity. It's a Wyoming DAO. We've got all these structures formulated around a token. The token actually has a tokenomics mechanism that takes a bit of every buy and sell and puts that in a lending pool that's controlled by the DAO. And then that lending pool loans out to people, and then it returns interest back to all the holders and stakers. And we move that to Hedera because it allows us to give back pennies of rewards, right? You can't do that on Ethereum. Just FYI for those watching, can't do it on Bitcoin, can't do that on Ethereum. Maybe a couple other chains you could do that on, but you can definitely do it on Hedera. So we move those features and functions to Hedera, and everything from voting with the token. I think we've done like 20, 30 votes, Michael, to move around the kind of the just whatever the architecture, from the architecture to the types of loans. We're about to go. I think Michael's going to be. I don't want to make too many announcements, but we've got a really exciting thing we're going to be doing Friday in Virginia, right, Michael? I think
Next
we don't want to
Friday,
talk. Yeah, next Friday. Well, it's Friday already, so not this Friday, but yeah,
Yeah.
next Friday. So definitely going to be doing some cool stuff here soon. But we do so much cool stuff. So through that transition, kind of in mid 2022, early 2022. I started a company called BankSocial. We always had BankSocial kind of going with the BSL DAO and everything, but we formed a company that to bring these technologies to marry. We initially started looking at building a credit union, which is now called DeFi, which that's very related to what Michael's going to be going out there and doing in Virginia on Friday. And through that process of trying to start a credit union, because I realized that really what I call cooperative capitalism now, I've more molded my thought over time. We're moving to an age of cooperative capitalism where control, transparency, and totality of circumstances now go into the decisioning process for how things get regulated. I was talking with some of the regulators the other day. We're actually looking at working on some tech sprints with them of how do we modernize the way we go at, like if AIs are launching tokens, how do you fight that? Well, you launch AIs that watch those tokens because things are so transparent now, and we can rethink how regulators, attack this problem. We're doing that now with financial crimes and with other things that are happening. So we've got a recovery service and a service that allows people to monitor and keep track of their wallets. We've got a crypto insurance product that's about to launch that will insure your wallet from theft and insure it, up to millions and millions of dollars because of the systems we built. And so that really, we started at one place with a small, a very small piece of the future vision. And now at this point, we're in we're in many financial institutions, both here in the United States and abroad. And the reason we do it is because we do believe that this new and in that time, I forgot to mention a very important fact. I met who I consider my co-founder. Even though I founded the company, I consider Becky my co-founder. Becky Reed, she was the CEO of a credit union, and I connected with her by chance at like 2 a.m. on I think it was like the day after New Year's, because I don't really party or go out or do anything like that. And I connected with her, and she basically was like, wow, this is really interesting. And we never stopped talking since then. And we kind of, coalesced on the vision of really what, instead of just having, we still are, doing DeFi in the credit union in Virginia, and you'll hear more about that. We can talk more about that. But more generally, that cooperative finance or cooperative capitalism can be brought about by people-owned financial institutions, which is really what to me, the ethos of decentralization and decentralized finance. It's not about two guys in some country who don't want to be found doing, facilitating transactions that we shouldn't talk about. It's not about those guys. It's about the other 99.9999999% of the world who wants to just do what we're doing right now, right? Like, hey, I like you, Dennis. Let me send you some money. We did some cool stuff last weekend, and I shouldn't have to go through 62 intermediaries, and I should be able to pick my own rails, and I should be able to create my own value mechanisms that I can trade freely in the market. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing actually countries do that. We're seeing companies do that. We're seeing communities do that. Because a credit union, we found a cooperative financial institution, these things can be as small or as big as we want. And now with AI and with technology, and wait till you hear about some of the stuff we're doing with AI. We were at Harvard a few weeks ago, and we're doing some phenomenal stuff with agentic AI and money movement that is just mind-boggling, right? And so when you start thinking about this world, you can have smaller and smaller financial institutions that are created, that are owned by us, to protect our financial interest, right? Because there are some regulation. I'm not an opponent of regulation. I think it's a very good thing. I think we can lighten it up and use technology. We can use less words and more mathematical proofs to govern ourselves in a society. I mean, that's the phase we're getting to. And I think you're starting to see that with regulators lightening up a little bit of, maybe providing more guidance, right, around certain mechanisms. But really, I'm not even arguing that the Howey test should be changed. Yes, crucify me, whatever. I'll hang up there for that statement. but I don't think it should be changed. I think the openness and the ability for me to interpret it and for the regulator to interpret it, should be something that can happen. I think it's why XRP was able to do what they did for so long, because of the Howey test being so flexible in interpretation. And I think what we're seeing is that balance between I'm starting to formulate a response to the crypto roundtable, and I'm going to be at the next few. But essentially, I think everybody at the table was saying the same thing. Like Lee Reiners was up there, the head of a big lecturer at Duke, and I think he's a teacher at Duke as well. Chris Brummer, John Reed Stark, there were so many people up there. I'm forgetting people. Miles Jennings. There were so many great voices, and they were really all saying the same thing from a different way. John Reed Stark was saying, hey, like Bitcoin is hard to stop. And I think, yes, it is, but it's got its purpose. And I don't think we should throw the baby out with the bathwater. And by the way, try to shut it off. Like, all those discussions can be had, but I can tell you about things that we're doing with USDC and Tether on financial crimes enforcement that would blow your mind. I have financial institutions partners that their minds are getting blown because they can't do this right now. They can't do what we're doing. And so we shouldn't but I don't think everybody is. I think we're all talking from different perspectives, but the unifying layer of this is there's trust in math, right? There's trust in provable proofs. There's trust in control mechanisms that are programmatically codified in immutable ledgers, right? There's value in these systems that we can now extend into the regulator, right? And I think they're very interested. We're doing tech sprints we're starting to work on doing tech sprints to modernize the system so that they feel more comfortable. I can understand a deputy, kind of commissioner level, or somebody, who's actually doing the boots on the ground, getting nervous fighting these things and having to take more of a shotgun approach because they may not have the tools they need. So I'm ranting a little bit now, but you kind of get the vision and where we are and what we do and how we play in the space generally.
Well, it's really exciting.
George shared a video interview that you did about your work with
I don't know whether I got a connection. Can y'all hear me?
So,
okay.
Yes.
I've got spotty connection. John, I want to thank you.
How many?
I do want to thank you for hosting this.
Then,
I'm sorry. Okay, well, go ahead. Sorry, Patty. Having trouble hearing.
How many credit unions are you going into, and are you finding that people are like joining?
Yeah, so dozens. And remember, the joining is less about are they we build software in a lot of different ways, right? We deploy our white label wallet, digital asset wallet, which can connect to their bank account and their core, and they can move money back and forth. We connect to payment rails that have international settlement capabilities through stable coins and other mechanisms, right? We have wallet security mechanisms and features that utilize, instead of like a Fireblocks or a Prime Trust that, by the way, Prime Trust no longer exists. That was a single entity that did multi-party compute. We do multi-party compute with financial institutions, which is the first. It's patent pending. We do a lot of things, and really sometimes people don't even have to know. I call it the Uber effect. Kyle Hopman kind of paints this picture all the time. It's the Uber effect. Like, people don't need to sign up to Uber because they want to use APIs and databases, Oracle databases, right? They sign up because they want a car to come pick them up and take them to where they want to go. And that's the solutioning that we provide, right? Like, digital assets is one thing, buy, hold, sell, crypto. And yes, we do have a great adoption with that. We see credit union members all over the place. We even have the first and only embedded wallet in a crypto, in a credit union, in a financial institution in the world, where you can move the money right from your account. So you can literally buy Bitcoin right straight from your account in the digital app, in a way that you can send it, receive it, use it however you want. It's all connected to our security mechanisms. But we also have systems where they can just say, hey, I want to send money to a friend, and they don't have to sign up, and they don't have to buy Bitcoin, and they don't have to buy a stable coin. And they just say, hey, I want to send money to my friend in the Ukraine, my mom in the Ukraine. And mom can be standing in line. We just launched our credit card, right? Mom can be standing in line in the Ukraine, fifth in line, fourth in line, and say, oh, thank you, son, I'm so grateful for you. And because we're not using Swift and $25 on this side and this side wire, or because she doesn't have to go to Western Union and walk out like, oh shit, I hope somebody doesn't rob me, you know, because they watch Western Unions, because what the fuck do you do in a Western Union, right? Nothing else, excuse my language. But you know, we can move that money, and the people receiving and sending don't really have to know how. They just need to push the button and say, great, I got to buy my eggs. And that's what I really think cooperative capitalism is about, is utilizing these new technologies to reduce those barriers. You know, we still let them buy Bitcoin. Like on the other side, some people want to hold Bitcoin because they feel like a certain portion of that can be a hedge against other things. So why not let that receiver spend $5 of what their mom sent them on their groceries, and then at the same time hold the rest in Bitcoin or Ethereum or HBAR, right? We're doing that right now, right?
Cool.
So
That's awesome.
thank you.
Wonderful. I have
Thank
more
you.
questions, but I don't want to hog all the questions. Somebody else ask a question.
Go ahead, Patty.
Okay, well, I'm curious. So you're talking about individuals, businesses, are they using this? Because I could see how international businesses that get tied up with all the regulations that like money going into a foreign country, and that country wants to control how much US dollars can be in the country at one time. So all of that would be avoided.
Yeah, well, I don't want to say it would be avoided. I just think it makes it more transparent and easy to deploy, right? So we're working with some very large banks and securities exchanges in South America that want to do exactly that, right? They want their importers, exporters, their businesses to be able to hold USDC, pay it in their local currency when they want, or RUSD with, we hold that at credit unions. They want to be able to sell to people in the United States their gold, their silver, right? This is opening up markets for them because it makes their currency easier to utilize in the world, right? And not necessarily that people in Switzerland have to use their currency, but it makes that basically we're putting when you get off the airplane, you walk down to the end of the terminal and there's that guy there and he's like, yeah, I can switch this money for you. And I can, I'm going to show you guys this because I think it's funny and I think it's true. There's a concept called wildcatter money, like in the 1800s, where every city had its own money. And so I think that's why people in the Old West used to have to walk around like this, because they had all that wildcatter money in their pockets, right? And so now we're in a situation where wildcatter money is happening again. And I hesitate to phrase it like that because that was a little harder times, right? How much wildcatter money can you hold? How many different currency exchanges can you have for all those monies? But now the little spaceship in our pocket can do all that in real time. Right. So my currency in the country that I'm in Latin America is now usable in more places all over the world almost immediately, right? Instantaneously. And I can transfer money and they can transfer money. And the banks are now setting up these market making activities where they'll buy and sell the USDC in real time for their businesses, their business customers. And this is like the world is dollarizing. I personally wrote an article maybe 3 years ago about how the Fed should embrace this new technology for dollarization, right? Yes. And it's working now. And it's like I put that out there and now we're doing it, right? So I see dollarization taking off in Africa. We have African financial institutions that are like, hey, look, Mexico, these people want to get their salaries and hold some of it in dollars, right? And then hedge against their local currency. And then when they need to use it, they want to be able to off ramp into it. And the bank will hold it, right? It's digital. So right now we know about Latin America, people are holding vast sums of money literally in their mattresses, dollars, US dollars. And they're afraid, because they if they give it, is it just going to be a representation in the bank? I don't want that. I want it's my money. It's under my mattress. How can I keep it my money? Well, now with crypto keys and the way we can consolidate and segregate, right? We can do all this. We can do it all. And we're giving them their keys and they have their money. And now they have their money in their safe, in a little tiny safe, or in their head, and they can walk across borders with it. So yeah, it's a very unique time to be living. We see just massive adoption all over the world. Again, at WEF, I saw a fundamental shift in the sentiment of humanity. Let me just paint some really broad, statements. a broad shift in the sentiment of humanity, in that for the last couple of years, people have been skeptical and saying how and why and what, and now they're saying this and now. And we're seeing it again. We were at GAC, which is the Government Affairs Council. I got to sit between, like, Kyle put Becky and I right next to him, and Hester Peirce and Hill from the Travis Hill from the FDIC and the Treasury people. This is a time where the whole world is shifting. I was meeting with leaders of African countries, the Nairobi Stock Exchange, and Kenya and Zimbabwe and Nigeria, and they're all in on both a form of dollarization, and they want to hold other currencies too. And why shouldn't they? Right? If there's a other hedge, why shouldn't they have access to that as well? So yeah, we definitely see the uptick. I think the business cases are actually the easier ones to launch in these kind of up and coming zones in these countries, just because they're easier to monitor, bigger transactions, bigger volume. But we do see the retail use cases a quick follow right behind them, because it's the same technology that we would deploy into their hands.
Very cool.
Yeah, it is.
Could you tell us a little bit about the I guess it's hard money loans, but using crypto as a collateral for loans and the DAO process behind that?
So yeah,
fascinating.
Yeah, so we've got several things. So with the DAO right now, and we're about to vote on PAL loans, which are payday advance loans. So the DAO is about to do something very cool. I don't want to give away all the thunder, but the DAO is about to do something very cool where it will be able, not directly itself, but it will be able to participate in payday advance loans at a much lower rate than what the market is putting those out as right now. So think about being able to give people who need access. We can give it to them digitally. It's powered by the BSL DAO, the BSL token, and credit unions to give people $200 till their next payday, right? $300, $500, things like that. So that's part of this, but also the ability to take a loan out to buy a home, to do a business loan, or to do a big business loan, right? Like $300,000, $200,000. We gave a dentist a loan for like $110,000 piece of equipment, right? Cool. And he wasn't able to get it. And he just paid off. I think he's got one more payment, and then it's his. Done. It's about done. He's got one more payment, and it's his, And so those are two things. And then we're working with credit unions alongside all of this. So that's kind of all our DAO is doing that right now, which is really freaking cool. And just by buying the token, you participate in that ecosystem, right? All the components of the staking and the rewards and all that. And then on top of that, there's our ability to lend against crypto. So we've got several financial institutions right now that are working on a unique structure to allow them to us together to lend against certain types of digital assets, right? And really this is the precursor to tokenizing a home and allowing you to spend that at the point of sale. That's the next step. That's the 18-month step. Is soon your house is going to be fractionalized in these credit unions, and you're going to be able to sell fractions of it to your fellow members, right? And they'll be able to look at your history, and they'll be able to free up some liquidity for you and diversify their portfolios, because that's what happens right now. It's just that the systems are not transparent enough and can't do zero knowledge proof so that you can trust what's happening but not have to see anything. We have that now. We have that technology now, and these ecosystems are just to the point to where we talk about zombie cores. There's so many cores out there that don't get supported, and the core system is really think about it like the chain, right? It's where all the data lives. It's supposed to be immutable. It's not supposed to change. It's the record keeper of everything. And now we're upgrading these zombie cores that are written in COBOL. They're 47 years old. They're ripe to be upgraded, and with this upgrade comes major advancements. And so the digital asset lending is the first layer of them getting comfortable with lending on, these fractionalized, infinitely fractionalizable, and we're doing that with loan participation. So kind of how we were talking about the business use case that Patty was talking about, the business use case for like these loans is loan participation. So we allow credit unions to have a marketplace where they're using a stable coin to buy and sell fractions of NFTs or of NFTs that represent loan participations where maybe 10 auto loans or 100 auto loans or 500 auto loans. And this frees up liquidity, the diligence. All the loans are scrubbed by AI. They're scrubbed by AI. They're summarized. They're tokenized. So the loan itself, the document itself, plus all the summarization is tokenized, and then it's immutable forever. It can never change. And so that makes diligence and reselling and refractionalizing so much more efficient, so much more efficient. And so that's the first layer of them getting comfortable with lending, with allowing people to kind of within themselves lend on the loan and then lend between institutions so that you free up liquidity. There's so much liquidity. Some of our problem is a silo of liquidity. This bank has it. This bank is good at making loans, but they don't have enough, so they have to stop making loans. But these guys can't make loans, so they can't take more deposits, but they're really good at taking. And it's just kind of the factor of life. And so, this frees up that liquidity to be more usable in the space generally.
Fascinating. That's exciting. I appreciate you sharing.
Any other questions?
Yeah, George has got a spotty connection, but he's writing in right now. He wants to talk about staking their BSL. How South Carolina Attorney General just dropped a staking lawsuit against Coinbase.
Yeah, because so here's the difference in our staking and their staking, right? And I'm not saying that ours is is not is completely compliant with South Carolina. So don't this is just thoughts on the differences and what I think the differences are. With Coinbase owns your keys, owns your crypto, owns your everything. You are giving, you're not really staking, right? They're making a promise to you as a bank would, and they are in complete control of that stake, right? That's how I feel about it. And it was the same thing with Kraken. It was the same thing. And that's kind of the, I haven't studied Ethereum staking too much, but like with Hedera, for example, with Hedera, you can go with your self-custody wallet and go stake right now, direct to the chain. It's a mechanism and a function of the chain. To my knowledge, you have to stake into a validator pool on Ethereum, which, yes, may be similar. There's a little bit of centralized control there in that validator pool. Generally, though, I'm not aware of a mechanism to just directly from a wallet that's anybody's built to stake directly to the chain itself for Ethereum, for example, right? You definitely can't do that with something like Bitcoin. And so, whenever these staking mechanisms come up, you got to ask about the totality of circumstances. What's going on? Is staking what he's going after? Or is it the totality of circumstances that Coinbase just happens to call staking, right? It's like when I talk to people all the time, I go into these conversations and people start using the word crypto and they're going to do all this cool stuff and they're going to do it with crypto. And I say, okay, that sounds like a security. Now take out the word crypto and tell me why it's not a security. And they're like, I can't use the word crypto. Well, if I can't use the word crypto, then it's a security. It's like, well, then it's a security, And so when you look at totality of circumstances and what really is going on there, do I agree with it? I don't know. I haven't seen it, right? I don't know. I generally would say, though, that I do think when you're looking at, there's a difference between saying, hey, we believe there's a way to do DeFi with regulated financial institutions. And then there's a completely different thing to say, hey, I shouldn't be regulated because it's crypto. And because it's crypto, you should look the other way. But really what's happening is millions or hundreds of millions of dollars are going into omnibus wallets. And Jordan, you don't know if yours are still there. And Greg, you don't know if yours are still there, but they're staked. Okay, well, okay. All right. And that's really what I think the major rub is with that. I could be completely off base, but just, I've looked at this before for many years. And with BankSocial staking, that's why we built it all on chain. It's all built on chain. There is no centralized staking mechanism. Like our wallet connects to on-chain smart contracts. Anybody can write their wallet to connect to those on-chain smart contracts, right? It doesn't need permission. It's permissionless, right? So that's kind of the big reason why generally when we put out technology, that we want to be looked at as favorable for a new way to evolve to. We really think that control and transparency are two of the major sieves. And I think again, going back to that SEC roundtable, everybody was really saying that, right? Like Lee Reiners, they could be considered more towards the like anti-crypto, but I don't really think I consider them that, even John Reed Stark. And then people like Miles Jennings could be, and Chris Brummer could be seen as more towards like the pro-crypto side, but I don't really see that. I really see all of them saying a very similar thing in a different way. And when Lee Reiner says, hey, I think we need to keep Howie interpretable, I agree with him. And I think he's saying that because he wants to look at totality of circumstances, which should be the metric by which everybody is judged, right? It shouldn't be because you put the word crypto in your name that you get shut down. It should be that we go in and we look at it, and who cares if it's this database or this database? What are you doing? So, I generally think that there's a really good sentiment around, and I think even Gary Gensler came out. I know a lot of people, again, crucify me for this. I know a lot of people are a fan of his, but he did come out and say, not your keys, not your crypto, right? And I think he did that deliberately. That dude made like no statements the whole time he was there. And then he came out and said that and alluded to potentially staking in a decentralized way where anybody could build, and there's no control mechanism to keep people from doing it, right? Now we've uniquely built in a mechanism that won't allow you to remove your money unless you're KYC'd. There's a KYC on-chain component, which is really fucking cool, where you can't take out your money unless you're KYC'd with a kind of a zero proof verifiable credential. But hey, cool, fucking cool, right? Like we don't want to create money laundering loophole funnel honeypots either. Right. And there's ways to do this stuff now where we can balance and we can go in with totality of circumstances and say, hey, look, maybe it looks like security, maybe it doesn't in some places or not, but maybe also we should relook at what a security is from 45 years ago, not rewrite the law that governs it or the rule or the guidance that governs it, but just look at through a new lens when we look at it. And that's why I think Howie is important, maybe to not change it. Or maybe we come up with like a new test, a similar test, but it says, okay, first it goes through Howie, and then if it makes it through Howie, then it goes through like the sieve of transparency. And first it's like, where's the control at? Well, shit, a lot of the control is given away, right? Okay, where's the transparency? Well, shit, a lot of it's on chain, even though there's some controls, a lot of it's on fucking chain, right? Howie was established because, like, rightfully so, I gave $1 million to this dude, and then he went to Florida in groves. I don't even know if he put that money into those groves. Like he could have taken that money and put it somewhere else. So these security laws were created because of lack of transparency. And as transparency becomes and control becomes something that can be immutably codified into systems, I think the lens at which we view these rules and these guidances changes drastically, especially when we start adding the technology component, giving that to the regulators so that they can look at this and actually have the tools. Like, how cool would it be if tokens could be scanned for like liquidity provisions and token movements and how many are owned by how many people, and AIs can be working alongside. I call it human powered AI. That's my new phrase for AI it's always human powered, and human powered AI can be a check or a side rail that these agents are using to counterbalance their thoughts, right? To look at more than they can see. So yeah, it's a very interesting time, and I think that ruling probably has some, or that lawsuit probably has some salient points in it, centered around what I just kind of brought up.
Yeah, I love the long-term vision there.
Thank you so much.
One little thing to put on there on the staking portion is, and that's what the unique side of the BankSocial, the BSL token is that staking pay is not printed tokens, right, John? Like it's the interest that we generate on the loans that the BSL DAO funds is what's paying the staking. So like the rate of whatever is going to be paid varies depending on how active the loans are. If there's a lot of loans going on there, then it's going to be a lot of interest being paid out in the staking payments. It's not just your extra,
Yeah,
printed
it's not
pool of
just
tokens that's sitting over
some
here.
staking mechanism where more tokens are being printed and given to you and diluting you at the same time. Yeah,
Yeah.
like that's like, oh, that's not a good thing, right? Not saying that it should be banned entirely. Maybe there are some use cases that mathematically can work, but generally,
it's like the derivative of a credit union, right? Where
yeah,
everybody
exactly.
participates in the interest, like the loans that the credit union gives out.
Well, that's
right?
why
DAO is
credit
the
unions were
union
that's why credit unions were such a natural path for us, and cooperative capitalism is such a natural path for us.
Yeah, it makes total sense. I love it. Do you have the ability, like, let's just say that I had 100 grand of ETH, like, could I loan against that? Like, could I pull like USDC out against my ETH?
Yeah, so we do have a mechanism for, there's not an automated underwrite on it right now. We're doing that, but there is, you can go fill out on loans.banksocial.io. I believe there's a way to borrow crypto from there. And then we do a little bit more of a manual underwrite, like on a couple $100,000. So yeah, there is and we call that a keep your crypto loan, because basically, your crypto doesn't sell. We put it into an insured single wallet, so you always know that yours is there, it's yours, it's insured, and then we give you the money against it, and then you basically you take that and you go do whatever you want with it, and then if the price of Ethereum goes up, you can pay it off early. We've had some people do that with Bitcoin, right? Like they borrowed money when it was at $22,000, and then they paid off their loan. And they just sold a few Bitcoins to pay off their loan.
Convert the collateral. Awesome.
Yeah, just convert the collateral. And that's anywhere from 2 to 4 years. Interest rates are kind of comparable with business interest rates that are out there generally. We don't really look at credit because it's collateralized against your Bitcoin or against your, so there's a call. Typically there's like a margin call. We don't automate those either. That's kind of why we do the manual underwrite, because we don't automate the calls either, because we want to give you time to top up. And we've just seen horror stories with auto liquidations on stuff. And we know that crypto can be volatile sometimes. And so we're a little bit more realistic about the management of how we have to do that.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'll let Michael take it.
All right. Well, it's been, I think we're hitting the timer here is what we're hearing. So, but I'm happy to have been able to kind of get everybody together in the room. And I'm sure it'll be great to have John back another time to talk more, and maybe even Becky to have those discussions, because it is really cool to hear the two of them kind of talk on the way it all came about. What was it, John? The credit unions are like an analog version of DeFi, I think is one of the phrases.
Yeah,
that
they
comes
are.
around
They're a disconnected analog version of DeFi, and we can connect them.
Yeah,
and make
and so
it's
really great to put those two together and get them to talk. But I'm here in South Carolina for anybody else that's in the crypto call and SCETA with Dennis and everything, and I'm trying to get to as many of the events as I can. So I'll see anybody at the Beeple studio here tomorrow night, and I guess. George or Dennis, if there are any last questions, otherwise we'll wrap it up here, John.
George doesn't have a connection, but he's excited for a revisit.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Anytime. We love, Michael and Dennis and I, we've connected. Oh, Dennis just jumped off. But we've connected a few times, and we come out to that side of the world a lot, and I think, revisiting and keeping up the comms and continuing to do this is great. There's so much we can talk about. I think we can go into more of like a roundtable type of discussion and get some more thoughts from everybody next time.
I love the insight, John. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Tim, did you have anything? We didn't get the chance to hear from you.
Yeah, I had a question more along the lines of from the Bitcoiner perspective of like, how does Bitcoin Lightning, now that we have Taproot assets, how does that compete with this kind of model?
Well, it's hard to say that it competes, because I don't consider Lightning Bitcoin. First thing, and it's because it's another thing built. It's another thing, right? It's not Bitcoin. It's not, you can't go find Lightning in the Bitcoin repository. There's no, you can't show me the lines of code in the Bitcoin repository, right? It's another thing written on top of Bitcoin. Yes, it uses Bitcoin. Yes, it's natively, integrated with Bitcoin. But Bitcoin, the one challenge with Bitcoin is certainly, I think, money movement with it is possible. When you start to talk about, just a maybe more peg, I think it could be used as a peg. But when you start talking about it as the mechanism for money movement, there's so many challenges there, and I think most of them, and probably all of them. But we don't even have to go too deep into kind of technology. We can just stay with like governments don't want it, right? And so what are they doing to El Salvador, right? And so I think we need to find a place where we can't say that there will be one currency for the world and 666, and let's bring in the four horsemen start riding in. I mean, the single currency is like is the sign of the end of times, and maybe that's taking it a little too far down the road, but definitely we do see governments understand that it's going to be around. It's going to be a part of the ecosystem. We know that Bitcoin itself can't be used to do instantaneous money movement. Sure, certainly Lightning can, but then we can also start to talk about the fluctuation in the time of the time I send it to the time the other person gets it. Sure, it's near instantaneous, but by the time it settles into my Bitcoin wallet on the other side and I have my Bitcoin, the price could have moved a little bit. And you start talking about the business case for that. And that's not very appealing in the business case when you're moving tons and tons and tons of money. And I think that's why big banks and big financial institutions outside of Saylor holding it as a peg for his company. And I think that will happen. I think it's an asset that will continue to grow. I personally call Bitcoin probably the best battery ever made for humanity, right? We don't have a capacitor that can trap all the stranded energy in North Texas. We don't have one. We do have a Bitcoin mining facilities all over the place that are turning that stranded energy into resellable value near instantaneously, right? All day, every day. And so I think Bitcoin definitely has a place in the future of finance, a very critical and long-term place in the future of finance. I don't think it's the entirety. Just like Swift doesn't move all money. It's just a fact. Swift doesn't move all money internationally. Western Union does some of it, and I see this more as a pivoting of financial decentralization, right? And Bitcoin is a huge part of that, right? That base. And even if you just let's just look at it from a market maker standpoint. Why do you think the markets do like this all in tandem? When Bitcoin goes like this, ETH just kind of follows like this, right? Well, it's because all the market makers have tied everything to Big Daddy coin, Bitcoin, right? And I don't think that depeg is happening for a long time. So I think that Bitcoin definitely lives on far into the future. It's got cases that no other coin can do. You can't put stranded energy on any other coin at this point in the world. Nothing else can take it over. I mean, even if you use it for putting it on AI compute and things like that, which are starting to, by the way, take off as well. We do see some stranded energy being turned into AI compute with things like BitTensor, but nothing needs that amount of energy like Bitcoin needs, not yet. So I think it's got a very long-term future. I think that's why we're not seeing it as the money movement preference for Chase Bank and Swift and all these guys, because that business use case is quite, it's a hard one to pencil out economically. But again, I do think it's going to be long into the future. I think it's one of the best innovations of the modern world, and I think it's got a very long and bright future ahead of it.
Thank you for your insights.
Thank you. That was a great question. That's always a hard question to answer because there's so many facets to it. I just try to give the best insights based on all the stuff I pull over the world. You
could start another hour conversation.
At least.
That would be a good one. And actually, I think it would be really awesome if we could, on the next time, possibly, John, if you're able to bring maybe someone from the Hedera network to speak to what's going on over on that side with those relationships with
Yeah,
with
absolutely. I
government
mean,
and
we
the
can bring the head of
payment rails.
partnerships. Yeah, we can bring in India, the head of partnerships. He's great. He's on our board. You know, I can possibly talk. You know, we're really close with Mance. You know, he's all. We're kind of all over the place. A lot of us syncing up is hard to do sometimes, but definitely can get in India to come out and talk. And he's the head of partnerships for Hashgraph. So yeah, we certainly can get some more insights into what's going on over there, and you know, possibly even, you know, you're hearing about Google is really making some big moves right now in the space. So yeah, I think there's a lot to talk about. We can definitely do this more frequently.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks, George.
Everybody. Y'all have a great day. Thanks so much. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, Michael. You guys have a great